Responsibility. The very word can evoke a range of emotions, from the dull ache of duty to the crushing weight of obligation. But what if I told you that responsibility isn't just about burdens? What if it's also about growth, fulfillment, and even love? In the last episode, we saw our protagonist leaving his family home and stepping out into the world with dreams in his eyes and a fire in his belly. But life, as it often does, had a way of both testing and shaping him. He found work not his dream job, but a starting point nonetheless. Day after day, he chipped away at his tasks, learning, adapting, proving himself. His diligence did not go unnoticed. Opportunities came knocking, promotions were earned, and slowly his career began to take flight. But amidst this professional ascent, there was a quiet revolution happening within him. Call it maturity, call it life's gentle nudges, but he was changing. Looking back at his younger self, he saw not immaturity, but innocence. Back then, everything was about him, his aspirations, his ambitions. But now there was someone else to consider, someone who looked up to him, who depended on him. His father, once the strong, silent patriarch, was now showing the first signs of age. The hands that had built their home with such sturdy strength were now gnarled with age. The shoulders that had carried the family's hopes were stooped, not from burden, but from time's relentless march. At first it was small things, a hand lending help, a shoulder to lean on. Then it became more. Doctor's appointments, medication reminders, even helping with daily tasks. It wasn't just physical support he provided, it was emotional too. Listening to stories of a life well lived, tales of hardship and triumph that had shaped the man his father was. Hearing those stories, he felt a deep sense of gratitude, understanding that the sacrifices his father had made had paved the way for the life he had. There were moments, though, when the roles shifted, when his father, despite his frailty, would offer words of advice or comfort, when he saw determination and life lessons in his father's fading eyes. Those moments were humbling, reminding him that life was a continuous journey of learning. And then there were the grandchildren, tiny humans full of wonder, curiosity, and an insatiable need for love and attention. Their laughter echoed with the joy of discovery, their hugs, the purest form of affection. Being a grandfather was a role he had never imagined, yet one that brought him immeasurable happiness. Watching his own children interact with their kids brought a rush of emotions. It was as if he was reliving the joys and challenges of fatherhood through his children. Seeing the bond they shared with their kids, he felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The weight of responsibility was real, but it was a weight he found himself embracing. Sleepless nights became a part of his routine, not because of nightmares or worries, but because of the quiet demands of his new roles. A phone call in the middle of the night to check on his son, a text message to his daughter, a quick dash to the grocery store for supplies needed for his wife's baking project. These were the moments that defined his days and nights. Yet he didn't resent it. In the quiet moments, when the house was still and everyone was asleep, he would sit and reflect. He thought about the dreams he had once harbored, the ambitions that had driven him, and he realized that those dreams hadn't faded. They had evolved. He remembered the young man who had left home with the intention of making a difference in the world, of achieving something significant. And he saw how that young man was still in there, guiding, supporting, providing. It was no longer about grand gestures or sweeping changes. It was about the everyday stuff, the tangible, the real. He looked around the house he had built. It wasn't the grand mansion he had dreamed of as a child, but it was filled with laughter, love, and life. And in that moment, he knew he wouldn't trade it for anything. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, he stood in his backyard. His wife was inside baking, his children were playing, and his grandchildren were visiting. As he watched them, a sense of peace washed over him. Then he heard a voice that seemed to come from within him. "You are not burdened," the voice said. "You are blessed." He turned, startled, but there was no one there. Had he imagined it? Later that night, as he lay beside his wife, he shared what he had heard. She smiled, her eyes sparkling. "I know what you mean," she said. "Sometimes life's truths come to us in whispers, but they're there if we listen." He thought about the whisper, about the responsibility that had become his life. Was it a burden? No. Was it an obligation? Not really. Then what was it? He pondered as he closed his eyes, drifting to sleep. It was love. Love for his family, love for his life, love for the journey he had been on. Responsibility wasn't just about duty or obligation. It was about love expressed through action. It was the hands that had helped his father and the hugs he had given his grandchildren. It was the sleepless nights spent worrying and the phone calls made to ensure everyone was all right. It was the quiet strength he had become for his family. As the years went by, his hair turned silver, his skin wrinkled, but his spirit remained strong. The roles he had taken on hadn't diminished his dreams. They had enriched them. He had become a pillar of his community, a mentor to many, a friend to all. He had started a scholarship fund for underprivileged students, ensuring that no one's financial situation would hinder their dreams. He had mentored young professionals, sharing the wisdom he had gained over the years. And he had been a constant presence in his grandchildren's lives, attending their school plays, sports events, and graduations. Looking back at the journey he had shared with his wife, he marveled at how their love had grown. They had faced challenges together, supported each other through thick and thin, and loved each other fiercely. Their home had been a sanctuary, a place where love had thrived. Now, as he sat in his favorite chair watching the sunset, he felt a profound sense of contentment. The dreams he had once held dear had materialized in ways he had never imagined. He had a loving wife, supportive children, and grandchildren who looked up to him. He had made a difference in his community and inspired others to reach for their dreams. The secret, he realized, lay in embracing responsibility, not as a burden, but as a privilege. It had shaped him, tested him, and ultimately made him who he was. In the tapestry of his life, responsibility wasn't just the thread. It was the very essence of its richness and depth. Life doesn't always hand us the dreams we envision, but sometimes it leads us to something better, something we could have never imagined. For this man, responsibility became that something more. It became love. The love for his family, his community, and most importantly, the love for himself. As he sat there watching the sun dip below the horizon, he knew that his journey was far from over. There were still chapters to write, still dreams to nurture, and still responsibilities to embrace. But now he faced them all with a smile, knowing that in the grand tapestry of life, responsibility was not just a burden, it was a masterpiece in progress.